And so, hello there, and welcome to a new Night of the Movies podcast. And in these podcasts, I talk all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, for about half an hour to an hour, once a week. And in today's podcast, I'm talking about the Golden Globes, which happened a couple of days ago now, and how they might be paving the way for this year's Oscars. But, just before I get into that, I should say what I say at the start of every podcast I do, that if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, hello there to my viewers, but heck, you just don't have the time to watch the full podcast on YouTube, then you can also listen to my podcast audibly on Spotify at Night of the Movies on that platform. Likewise, if you are listening on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners, thank you very much, because I don't get many Spotify listeners according to the stats that I receive. But if you are listening to Spotify, then you can also watch this podcast visually on my YouTube channel at Night of the Movies on that platform as well. And wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, please feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the podcast, of course. If you don't have to like and subscribe, but I'll feel a bit offended. But still, nevertheless, if you do enjoy this podcast, please feel free to like and subscribe, and also leave some feedback so I know what to improve on in the near term future on this podcast, and also give me some ideas on what I can talk about in upcoming podcasts on this channel as well. Like, if you asked me a couple of weeks ago at the start of the year if I was going to do a podcast on the Golden Globes, I probably would have said no. So I am a bit short on ideas right now, so I'd love to have your ideas on what I could talk about in the near term future, what topics you want me to go into. Maybe you want me to talk about box offices with movies, maybe you want me to talk about an upcoming trailer or an upcoming film, or something that's just been released. Maybe you just want me to talk about what I'm talking about already, and if you do, please let me know in the comment section below what you want to talk about in upcoming podcasts on this channel. But anyway, like I said before, I'm going to be discussing the Golden Globes in this podcast today, and how they might be potentially paving the way for this year's Oscars. But just before I do that, I'm going to quickly say my opinion of the Golden Globes. I neither like nor dislike the Golden Globes. It's just there, in my opinion. I don't get excited about watching it. I don't get excited about the results. I get interested about the results of the Golden Globes, but I don't get excited about it because I don't really know the point of the Golden Globes. I understand the point of the SAG Award, which is happening sometime next week, as far as I'm aware. It might not be. Honestly, I've just heard that from somebody. But yeah, I understand the point of the SAG Awards. I understand the point of the BAFTAs. I understand the point of the DJ Awards. And I also understand the point of the Oscars. In fact, I really look forward to watch the Oscars. I don't really actually get to watch it either. I just really look forward to hearing about the Oscars and hearing about the nominations and all the talks around the Oscars and all the talk, post-Oscars as well, when people have won awards or haven't won awards. I really look forward to the Oscars, even so I've never properly watched it. I've seen bits of it on YouTube, like loads of people have, the highlights after the Oscars have, come out and things like that. But the thing is with the Oscars, right, they happen in America, and because they happen in America, they happen at a really late time in the UK where I live. So it's always at about 11 o'clock when I want to watch it, and I'm someone who likes to get into bed about 10 o'clock, so I'd be staying up way too late, way past my bedtime, if you will, to actually sit there and watch the Oscars. And also, it's always really hard to find a place that's streaming the Oscars, and often when you do find somewhere that's streaming the Oscars, you have to pay for it, and I just can't be bothered with all that. So I haven't actually fully streamed an Oscars or sat down to watch an Oscars event ever. I mean, I might this year, if I get the chance, if it falls in a day where it kind of all works. I don't have anything the following day, I might still have to watch the Oscars, but I haven't done that ever before. But I'm always, and I mean always, interested to hear about the Oscars results. Who's won, who hasn't won, the snubs, the surprise wins, things like that. I'm always interested in the Oscars. And so that's why I'm talking about the Golden Globes in this podcast. I'm justifying when I talk about the Golden Globes, even so I don't really care about them, because they do sometimes, and they can often, pave the way for the Oscars. And quite a lot of the time, the people get nominated in the Golden Globes also get nominated in the Oscars. The people who win the Golden Globes also win the Oscars as well. It has happened quite often. So that's why I'm talking about the Golden Globes. But just before I get into all the film awards, the people who won the Oscars, the people who didn't win in the film categories, I'm going to quickly talk about the TV categories. Now, I'm not someone who watched a lot of TV last year, but I saw a fair amount of TV shows. So I want to quickly talk about it. So let's start off with Best Supporting Actress in a Limited or Anthology Series or TV Movie. By the way, there's a really loud van out there, sorry. Sorry if that interfered with the sound of the podcast, but still, like I said before, let's start off with Best Supporting Actress in a Limited or Anthology Series or TV Movie. And the winner from the Golden Globes was Jennifer Coolidge from the White Lotus Series 2. Now, notably, Aubrey Plaza was also nominated for the White Lotus Series 2 as well. And if it was up to me, I would have given it to Aubrey Plaza. I thought she gave the best performance out of the amazing cast from the White Lotus Series 2. But Jennifer Coolidge is, just as good though. She was brilliant in the last season, The White Lotus, and she seems like she's a really delightful person as well. Like, if you watch her acceptance speech from the Golden Globes, it's so funny, and spoilers here in case you haven't seen her acceptance speech and you haven't seen the end of The White Lotus Series 2 and you're wanting to watch that series but you haven't got around to it. She spoils that her character dies at the end of The White Lotus Series 2 in her acceptance speech, and it's so funny. She says to Mike White, the creator of The White Lotus, "Mike, I love you so much, even if you did kill me at the end of the last series of The White Lotus." It's something like that. I'm paraphrasing badly, but it's a really funny moment. You haven't gone to check that out. Yeah, she seems like an absolute delight, and she was great in the last season of The White Lotus. Just because I think Aubrey Plaza would have been a better win doesn't mean I want to take anything away from Jennifer Coolidge. She deserved that as well. So, yeah. Really happy with that decision, and her acceptance speech was absolutely delightful. Now, let's go up a bit here. I'm not going to cover a lot of the TV categories because, again, I haven't seen much TV this year. But one of the ones I do want to talk about is Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical Series. And the winner was Jeremy Allen White for The Bear. Now, the funny thing is, I talked about The Bear on my last podcast on this channel, and honestly, if I'd seen The Bear last year when it came out, it would be my favourite TV show of 2022. I loved Andor, and Andor would have been a close follow-up. I adored that show so much. But The Bear was phenomenal, and it's short as well. If you haven't checked it out, go and check it out. It's on Disney+. It's a short series, it's only 8 episodes. Each episode's about half an hour long, some are less than half an hour, and the last episode is a tad bit longer. It's about 50 minutes, but it doesn't feel that. It's an amazing piece of TV, and if people haven't checked out The Bear yet, do go and check it out. I can't recommend it enough. But I wouldn't say it's a comedy or musical series. In fact, it's definitely not a musical series. There's no musical numbers whatsoever. But in a way, I suppose it's a comedy. It has a lot of funny moments, but it's not a comedy in the same way, say, The Big Bang Theory is, or Modern Family, or The Office, or anything like that. It's got funny moments. It's kind of the same as The Banshees of Inisherin, which I'll talk about a bit later in this podcast as well. It's funny, but I wouldn't say it's a comedy. It's probably more of a drama, but I do think that Jeremy Allen White was a great pick to win the Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical Series. So he's terrific in that show. You can see how much he has invested into that character, and yeah, a brilliant pick to win because he is great. And again, if you haven't checked out The Bear, do go and check it out. It is very good. Now, Best Actress in a Drama Series here is Zendaya won for Euphoria. No surprise here. I've heard some amazing things about her in that show. I must admit, I did watch half an hour of the first episode of Euphoria and I turned it off. It was so explicit and so disgusting and just so weird and not my sort of thing. I don't like shows that are that explicit. I don't mind shows that are explicit in terms of sex, drugs, and they go into it occasionally and they have an episode focused on that. In fact, the last series of The White Lotus, was all about sex, but it wasn't too explicit. And I did feel that when I sat down to watch when I sat down to watch Euphoria, it was a bit too explicit for my liking. But I remember really liking Zendaya in that only watching half an hour of the first episode of Euphoria, and I thought she was good in that. So no surprise there. No surprise there. I hear she's very good in the show. But also Emma Darcy was nominated for House of the Dragon. I think she was great in that show, and also Imelda Staunton for The Crown as well. And although I didn't love the latest season of The Crown, Imelda Staunton was terrific in that last series. But also, Best Actor in a Drama Series, Kevin Costner won there for Yellowstone. He's very good in that show. Haven't seen it again, I do apologise. Best Limited Anthology Series or TV Movie went to The White Lotus. Now, I haven't seen some of the other films which are nominated in this category, like Blackbird, Dharma, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, Pam and Tommy. I have seen Pam and Tommy, actually. I have seen Pam and Tommy, but I do think The White Lotus is better, and I'm very happy that it won Best Limited or Anthology Series. And then Best Drama Series went to House of the Dragon. Now, although I didn't love House of the Dragon, I did still like it, and I completely see why it won Best Drama Series. Although what's interesting here is that Better Call Saul, The Crown, and Ozark and Severance were nominated as well. And I've heard Better Call Saul is excellent. I haven't seen that. And one day I do plan to sit down and just watch all of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul in the space of a month. I just haven't found time to actually sit down and watch Breaking Bad. I hear it's amazing from everyone I've talked to who's seen the show. I really want to see it, and I really want to see Better Call Saul as well, which is like the follow-up sort of prequel series, sort of sequel series. Sorry about the lighting, by the way, in the back. The sun's coming through the windows, but still, nonetheless, I heard some fantastic things about Better Call Saul. So I was a bit surprised that House of the Dragon won, and also I've heard some amazing thing about Severance as well and Ozark. Now, I haven't seen Severance, and again, that's a show I really want to see. But the thing about Severance is it's on Apple TV Plus, and that's another streaming service that I just have to get. And at the moment, I've already got Disney Plus, Prime Video, Netflix, iPlayer, Now TV, and all things like that. And even so, there's only about 5 streaming services, 1 for free there. BBC iPlayer is for free. Even so, there's only 5 streaming services and talk about there. That's still 5 streaming services, and a lot on those streaming services, particularly Netflix and Disney Plus. So it'd just be another streaming service I'd have to get, and I don't know if I have the time and energy and money as well to actually get Apple TV Plus. So I hear Severance is very good, but I just haven't seen it myself. And The Crown, the latest season of The Crown, I can understand why it was nominated, but I can also understand why it didn't win. Because although I quite liked the last season of The Crown, it wasn't the best season of The Crown. And I do think that the next season of The Crown is going to be fantastic, though. And I could see the next season of The Crown winning, the next and final season of The Crown winning, because I bet it's going to be great. I bet they're going to really knock it out of the park with the final season of The Crown. But I do think House of the Dragon is a good win. It's not the TV show I would have chosen. I probably would have gone with Better Call Saul, the amount of things I've heard about. Even so, I haven't seen that show. That's a bit silly me saying. But at the same time, though, House of the Dragon I liked, I just didn't love, but I can see why it won. But anyway, let's get on to the film awards, though. The people who won in the film categories. And again, apologies watching on YouTube and the lighting has gone a bit weird in the background. When I started this podcast, there wasn't the sun shining outside, but now there is, and so the lighting in the background may be a bit too shiny and it may just affect the background lighting, but I don't care. I'm carrying this podcast no matter what. But anyway, like I said before, let's talk about the film wins from the Golden Globes. So, Best Animated Feature went to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I think that's very telling. By the way, Puss in Boots' Last Wish also got nominated for the Best Animated Feature. I haven't seen Puss in Boots' Last Wish, and I actually really want to see it now, because it's come out in the USA, and a lot of the film critics and a lot of film geeks who I watch on YouTube who, come from the USA, they've all seen the film, and they said it's absolutely terrific. It's one of the best animated films to come out in the past 10 years. I want to see it. Also, we haven't had a film in this sort of Shrek universe, if you will, for a very long time. I mean, since the last Puss in Boots, and I haven't seen the first Puss in Boots film. I'm planning to see it before I watch the new one. But the thing is, though, the Shrek films were a huge part of my childhood. I mean, I didn't watch them continuously, like some other people I know did. But I loved Shrek 3 growing up. I know it's a bit of a weird thing to say, but I loved that film. It was fantastic in my opinion. And I still kind of enjoy it now because of how wacky it is. But I also love Shrek 2 growing up as well, and Shrek Thor. No, God, what am I saying? No, Shrek 4, not Shrek Thor. Thor didn't show up in the fourth Shrek film. No, I really enjoyed Shrek 4 though. What's it called? Shrek Forever After. And I really just enjoyed those characters. And I've heard some great things about the new Puss in Boots film, and I just really want to watch it. But it isn't out in the UK, which is really annoying. As soon as it comes out, I'm pretty sure it's coming out in February. I'm gonna go and see it, no matter what comes out that weekend. Even if a potential Oscar contender comes out that weekend, I'm gonna watch Puss in Boots 2. I don't bloody care. I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, just want to go on a little bit of a rant there about Puss in Boots Last Wish, because I haven't seen it yet and I really, really want to. But Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio winning Best Animated Feature was a great choice, and his speech was really good as well. And he said that animation is also a form of film, and I think people need to really start to get to grips with that. I mean, I'm a bit of a culprit there as well. Sometimes when I get the choice of whether I'm going to watch, sort of live action film or an animated film, I will always choose a live action movie. Maybe I should start looking at more animated films and seeing that sort of style. And I think Guillermo del Toro's speech is quite important there, and hopefully he gives a similar speech if he wins the Best Animated Feature Oscar at the Oscars. But anyway, Best Original Score went to Justin Hurwitz for Babylon. I haven't seen Babylon, it's not out in the UK yet, but Justin Hurwitz, I remember hearing his score for Whiplash and La La Land, which also both Damien Chazelle films as well. Damien Chazelle, who also directed Babylon, which is coming out I think next week in the UK. Can't wait to the film. It's very divisive in the USA, but that's also I really, really want to see it because it's divisive, because it's dividing so many people. Some people loving it to pieces, some people really not liking it, some people in the middle of it. I can't wait to watch Babylon. But I've heard Justin Hurwitz scores for La La Land and Whiplash, and also his score for First Man as well, and they're all terrific. So I'm glad to see that Justin Hurwitz is getting some awards for his music. I bet the score for Babylon is terrific. I haven't heard it yet, but I'm excited to hear it. Also, notably nominated in the Best Original Score department were Alexander Desplat for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. A really good score for that film. Not a score I would have nominated, but still a very noteworthy score. Carter Burwell's score for The Banshees of Inisherin. Again, a very good musical score. Very quiet, but also very melancholy. Its score in itself, much like the film. And also John Williams' score for The Fabelmans. Now, again, I haven't seen The Fabelmans yet because it isn't out in the UK. It doesn't come out for another 2 weeks. But I have heard John Williams' score for The Fabelmans. John Williams is my favourite film composer working today. So whenever he releases a new score, he's my favourite film composer of all time, actually. But, whenever I hear he's releasing a new score, I get very excited. Whether it's a big blockbuster score, like he's going to release a new Star Wars score, or a new Indiana Jones score, or whether it's just a score that's not blockbuster, or just a score that's for a Spielberg film. Like, I got quite excited when I heard he was doing the score for The Post, and I remember listening to that soundtrack and being quite surprised by how good it was. Same with a score for the BFG, which even though, those are not big blockbustery films, I suppose the BFG kind of is, but even so they're not big blockbustery movies, I still get excited to hear John Williams' scores for those films. And hearing John Williams' score for The Fabelmans as well is really, really good. It's a wonderful score from what I've heard so far. I can't wait to see how it's used in the movie. But when a score tells a story of itself, I think it's very special, and I think John Williams' score for The Fabelmans, from what I've heard of it so far, I haven't heard all the score. I like to listen to the main theme before I see the movie, but still, I think his score, from what I've heard, is very good. Best Screenplay went to Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin. No surprise there. That has an amazing screenplay. It's a very emotional screenplay. It's also very funny, and it's got a lot of heartfelt moments, a lot of poignant moments. It's an amazingly written film. Also notably nominated here, though, were Tony Kushner and Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, which I think is a great nomination because I'll talk about this again a bit later in this podcast. I think The Fabelmans is going to win a lot of Oscars. I think it's going to win a lot of Oscars. And so it's no surprise that The Fabelmans has been nominated. But also Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, I might pronounce those names wrong, so apologies if I am, both got nominated for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Again, a worthy nomination, got nothing wrong there. It's a well-written film. I didn't love Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I did still really enjoy it, and I do think it's a very unique movie, so I completely understand why it was nominated. Also, Todd Field for Tar. I haven't seen Tar as well, because although it came out in the UK this weekend, it wasn't on at my local Odeon, annoyingly. At least when I'm recording this podcast today, it wasn't on my local audience anyway. It might come on in the next couple of weeks, but it's annoying that Tar isn't on it, because I really want to see Tar. I've heard some amazing things about it. It's a potential Oscar contender from what I'm hearing, and it's just not on the UK, and I can't seem to watch in the UK yet. I'll have to go travel to a cinema a couple of hours away if I want to watch at the moment, which is a bit annoying. So yeah, I haven't seen Tar yet, but I'm very much looking forward to it and heard some very good things about it. Now, the Best Director, I got some great nominations here. You had Mike McDonough for The Banshees of Inisherin. Great that he's in there. James Cameron for Avatar The Way of Water. I'm really happy James Cameron got nominated, because I'm pretty sure it's the only, as far as I can see, it's the only Avatar The Way of Water nomination in this list. Avatar might be nominated for Best Picture, Best Film in the Golden Globes categories. I haven't seen. They might be nominated, but I just haven't seen that. But it's great that James Cameron got a nomination, because I think he did an amazing job visually with that film. I did think it was very well directed. Not the best directed James Cameron film, pardon me there, but it's still very well directed. Yeah, I'm really happy he got at least a nomination for something with Avatar, because that was one of my favourite films from last year. Daniel Kwan and Daniel Schroeder also both got nominated for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Really well directed film. Baz Luhrmann got nominated for Elvis. Great. I'm glad that Baz Luhrmann got nominated for something with his direction for Elvis, because I think he did a great job directing that movie. I mean, it's a Baz Luhrmann film. Baz Luhrmann is kind of like Marmite. You either love him or hate him. Personally, I think he's pretty great. I haven't loved every film he's done. Like, I don't love his version of Romeo and Juliet, but I do still think he adds a different flavour to that film with his direction. I think he did a great job directing Elvis, and I'm glad he got nominated for something. Even if it was a Golden Globe and it isn't too important, I'm still glad he got nominated. But the winner of the Best Director category was Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans. I think Spielberg is going to win his final Best Directing Oscar at the Oscars this year, and I think him winning the Best Director Golden Globe is an indication of that. Now, it might also go to Martin McDonagh at the Oscars for directing The Banshees of Inisherin. I still think that's a great choice. So if Spielberg doesn't win the Oscars, I'd be fine with that, and if it's Martin McDonagh, that's completely understandable. But I do think it is going to be Spielberg, though. What I've heard from The Fabelmans, it sounds a bit like Oscar candy, if you will. It sounds very like, not necessarily Oscar bait. I mean, maybe it is Oscar bait. I haven't seen the film, but it doesn't sound like Oscar bait. But at the same time, though, it sounds like a film which people in the Academy are particularly going to like. But anyway, Best Supporting Actress, now onto the acting awards. Best Supporting Actress went to Angela Bassett for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. A great performance, one of the best parts of that film, in my opinion. In fact, one of the reasons I actually kind of like Black Panther Wakanda Forever is because of her. And I've seen some, avid MCU fans online say this is a big thing for Marvel. No, it isn't. Angela Bassett is a great actress anyway. If you watch her in films like What's Love Got to Do, where she plays Tina Turner, she's amazing in that. And that was how many years ago? You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure she won a Golden Globe for that as well. But yeah, Angela Bassett is a good actress in herself. So I think the fact that she was in a Marvel film and now it's won an award for acting doesn't really make a difference to Marvel whatsoever. I've seen some MCU fans make a big deal of it. Personally, I just think she's a good actress and that's why she got the award. I don't think it's got to do anything. I think it doesn't change, people's perceptions of Marvel films in awards categories whatsoever. I think Angela Bassett has a good chance of also winning the Best Supporting Actress Oscar this year. But I also don't think that that's particularly noteworthy. But that's just the way I view it. But also nominated here is Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Ever All at Once, which is a brilliant nomination, because if you watch her in that film, by the way, she's really different than what she usually is, and it's not something I have expected to get nominated for Oscars, but I'm very glad that it has been. Kay Mulligan for She Said. I haven't seen She Said. I was planning to, but I just never found the time to it, but I heard she's very good in that film, and also Kay Mulligan herself, she's a great actress, but also Kerry Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin. That would probably be my choice. As good as Angela Bassett is in Black Panther, I think she's great in that film. I probably would have gone Kerry Condon from the Banshees of Inisherin because I think she has more heart into that movie. I mean, the heart of that film is the relationship between Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, and I do think that works fantastically in the Banshees of Inisherin. But Kerry Condon is also a key part of that movie. And so, if I again was choosing, I probably would have given it to Kerry Condon. But Angela Bassett is also a well-deserved win. Best Supporting Actor, and this one's delightful. Best Supporting Actor went to Ke Huy Quan for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Right, I did not think this was going to happen, and I don't think he's going to win the Oscar. But when I woke up and I was watching highlights from the Golden Globes a couple of days ago on my phone, I was smiling from ear to ear watching Ke Huy Quan's acceptance speech because he's great in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought it was, again, probably one of the best parts of that movie. He's a bit crazy throughout most of the film, but then there's a storyline between him and Michelle Yeoh's character in like a different universe because there's a multiverse film, and they're in this different universe and they're both movie stars and everything like that. And there's this brilliant moment between those two in the film, and it's a moment which focuses a lot on him, and it's so nuanced, but it works so well, and that's all down to his performance. He is fantastic in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and his acceptance speech just brings the biggest smile to your face. He even thanks Spielberg in his acceptance speech as well, because Spielberg was there to Golden Globes. He won his Best Directing Golden Globe there, so he even thanks Spielberg. And if you don't know who Ke Huy Quan is, by the way, I haven't actually said who he is, in case you don't know. He played Short Round in Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, and he also played Gadget in The Goonies. And apparently Spielberg has kept in touch with him all these years. Even though Spielberg worked with him, I think the last time he worked with him was on The Goonies in 1986. Spielberg didn't direct The Goonies, but he wrote it, and I think he was quite important in the making of it, because I think he also produced it, and there's some myths out there that he directed sections of The Goonies, but still, even though he didn't actually didn't officially direct The Goonies, he was heavily involved in it. So he's worked with Ke Huy Quan twice, and he kept in touch with him all these years, and the fact that they're still good friends is really delightful, and it also gives me hope, and this might be me, but it gives me hope that Ke Huy Quan has a cameo as Short Round in the new Indiana Jones film coming out this year. I'm really hoping that's going to happen. I'm thinking it probably won't. But, Spielberg is still involved in the new Indiana Jones film, even though he's not directing it, he's still involved in it. And I just think, I've just got a little bit of hope that Ke Huy Quan will make a cameo as an older Short Round in the new Indiana Jones film. It probably won't happen, but I've got a little glimmer of hope that it will. And also, hearing his story, by the way, I've seen a couple of interviews from him when he's talking about how he got the role in Everything Everywhere All at Once and everything that led to it. It sounds like ever since he played Gadget in The Goonies, he's had quite a tough career in acting. He hasn't really found any other roles. And then he did this, and it sounds like this was quite a big moment for him. Being in Everything Everywhere All at Once was quite a big part of his life. And now the fact that he's getting, Golden Globes for it, he's getting awards for it, I just think is brilliant. And his speech was absolutely delightful, and it was probably the most surprisingly pleasant win of the night. I didn't think he'd even get nominated. I didn't even know he got nominated. That's how much I was interested in the Golden Globes before this. I didn't even know who got nominated and who didn't. But at the same time, though, seeing that he won was great. And also, that leads me on to the next one, Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy, and the winner was Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's also some great nominations here, like Angela Joy in The Menu, Emma Thompson in Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, which I thought she was really good in, Simon Taylor-Joy in The Menu, but for Michelle Yeoh to win for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy for Everything Everywhere All at Once was great, because she is really good in that film as well. There's a great moment between her and her daughter in the movie towards the end of the film, where she's just saying, I just want to be here with you, and it's a very emotional moment. She plays it very well, and her acceptance speech was really good as well, because they start to play her off, and then she just said, no, turn off the music, and if you don't, I'm gonna go and beat you up. It's something like that. And Michelle Yeoh seems like an absolutely amazing person, and she was very good in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Again, a very deserved win. Although I'm a tad bit more glad that Ke Huy Quan won from Everything Everywhere All at Once, because his performance in that film is great, and I didn't think he would win any awards for it, but the fact that he has, it's brilliant. And same with Michelle Yeoh. So but then we go into best actor in a musical or comedy. And we had some great nominations here. Ralph Fiennes for The Menu. He was brilliant in that film. Adam Driver for White Noise. I probably wouldn't have nominated him for that. I think Adam Driver's an amazing actor. He's probably one of my favourite actors working today, actually. But I didn't think he was particularly brilliant in White Noise. It wasn't his worst performance, but it wasn't his best either. Daniel Craig for Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. That was a nice surprise to see a nomination for him there. It's only the Golden Globes. The nominations don't matter too much. But still, the fact that Daniel Craig got a nomination for Glass Onion just shows you how good he is as Benoit Blanc. Yeah, I watched that film, by the way, over Christmas again. I think I watched it on Christmas Day, actually. Such a good film still. But anyway, yes, Diego Calva got nominated for Babylon. Haven't seen Babylon still, but he's very good in it. But the winner for Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy went to Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin. And I think Colin Farrell is an amazing actor. But again, I haven't spoken about this already, but I've talked about this kind of with The Bear. I don't think The Banshees of Inisherin is a musical or a comedy. It's definitely not a musical. There's no moment where Brendan Gleeson or Colin Farrell break into song and dance. I don't think it's really a comedy either. I suppose you could say it's a dark comedy. But even that, I don't think it's technically a comedy. I think it's more of a drama, to be honest. It's not a comedy like The Wedding Singer or like Knocked Up or anything like that. It's not a cheesy American comedy that's often quite sleazy and explicit and like a buddy type comedy. It's not really a comedy, to be honest. It's not a comedy like Pride, the British film, either. It's more, I don't really know what it is, but I personally don't see it as a comedy. So I was a bit surprised that it got nominated in that category, but still, I'm glad to see Colin Farrell get a win. And his acceptance speech, by the way, is again delightful. It seemed like a lot of people were giving these amazing speeches at the Golden Globes. That's kind of one of the reasons as well that I wanted to talk about the Golden Globes in this podcast, because there's a lot of people giving really wonderful speeches at the Golden Globes. By the way, it's amazing how much the weather has changed. About 10 minutes ago on this podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, by the way, this doesn't mean a thing if you were listening to it on Spotify, but this room behind me was completely lit up. Now it's gone completely dark and it's chucking it down outside. The weather in the UK is rubbish. But anyway, it's all over the place. Back to what I was saying before. Glad to see Colin Farrell win for Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy for The Banshees of Inisherin. And his acceptance speech was delightful, like I said before. He started the speech by thanking Ana de Armas for how good she was in Blonde. Now, I haven't seen Blonde, but I've seen bits of her in Blonde. And she looked brilliant in that film. But just the fact that he started his speech with saying how good she was just shows you how selfless he is as a person. Also, he says in his speech how amazing Kerry Condon is in The Banshees of Inisherin, how amazing Martin McDonagh is as a director and a writer, and how much he loves Brendan Gleeson, which is great because the relationship between Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell, when I've seen in interviews, whether it's on Graham Norton, was like Film 4 interviews, or just interviews that they did for the press for The Banshees of Inisherin, it shows you how well they get on. And just watching Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell in Bruges, another Martin McDonagh film, and then watching them in The Banshees of Inisherin just shows you how good a relationship they have. Like, I really wouldn't be opposed to having a film, every year or every other year with them two as the leads, or just them two in the movie together, because they just seem so delightful, whether they're on screen together or they're off screen together, and they sound like they have such a great relationship. And seeing Colin Farrell, and he looked quite emotional when he was giving his speech, by the way. He sounded quite emotional. Hearing him say how much he loves Brendan Gleeson in that speech just shows you how good of the relationship they have. And yeah, I love that Colin Farrell did get a win. I do think, and this is a bit of a dark horse here, I do think that Colin Farrell has a chance of winning the Best Actor Oscar at the Oscars this year. I can't even speak. At the Oscars this year. I don't think he will. I think the Best Actor Oscars are going to go to Austin Butler or Brendan Fraser, which I'll talk about very, very shortly. But I think Colin Farrell is also in with a chance. I don't think he will, but I think he's in with a chance. And I think the Golden Globes is kind of indicated that he's definitely going to get nominated for. Definitely going to get nominated in the Best Actor Oscar category. Now, before I carry on, I'm going to quickly have a drink because I can have a voice going a bit. Okay. Now, Best Picture, Musical or Comedy went to The Banshees of Inisherin. And again, that really funny film. It's not a comedy in my opinion, and it's definitely not a musical. But I'm glad that it won. I'm glad that the film won. I'm glad that the film won. I don't really know what I was trying to say there, but I'm glad that the film won in that category, even though I wouldn't class it as either musical or comedy. But Babylon was also nominated. Everything Everywhere at Once was also nominated. So was Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. Again, all great nominations, and I was glad to see that the Banshees of Inisherin won, even though it wasn't a comedy. And then Best Actor in a Drama went to Austin Butler for Elvis. Now, also nominated here was Brendan Fraser for The Whale, which I think is particularly notable. Hugh Jackman for The Sun, Bill Nye for Living, and Jeremy Pope for The Inspection. Now, out of that list, I've only seen Austin Butler and Elvis. The Whale is currently not out in the UK. I don't think it's out until February in this country. But I've heard some amazing things about Brendan Fraser's performance. And I think the reason Brendan Fraser didn't get the Golden Globe is because he publicly said a couple of months ago or something that he wouldn't be attending the Golden Globes this year. And so I think the people who organised Golden Globes, the Hollywood Foreign Press, probably heard that and thought, let's give it to Austin Butler for Elvis instead. Not that Austin Butler didn't deserve the Golden Globe. If you watch Elvis, he's amazing in that film. Elvis was my favourite film of last year, and I thought he was terrific in that movie. I thought he was amazing in that film. But it sounds like Brendan Fraser is going to win the Oscar for Best Actor. And I think the reason he didn't win the Golden Globe because he wasn't there. And I think he's going to win Best SAG Actor. I don't know how the SAG Awards work. Winging that little bit there. But yeah, I think he'll probably win a SAG Award for his performance in The Whale. Because again, I hear it's amazing. And I do think he's going to win the Best Actor Oscar, the Oscars this year, and that'll be great as well because Brendan Fraser hasn't done loads in the past couple of years, and I always remember watching Brendan Fraser in the Mummy films because even though those films get a bit silly and they're not for everybody, I understand why. He is so good in them, and I enjoyed watching those Mummy films. I enjoyed watching those first two Mummy films back in the 90s, the ones from the 1990s. I watched them growing up. They always used to be on like ITV3 every weekend, particularly the second one, The Mummy Returns. And even so, those films both aren't, they're not brilliant, they're not groundbreaking, and they copy a lot of Indiana Jones. They are fun, and I think Brendan Fraser is great in both of them. And so, I do think that Brendan Fraser will win the Best Actor Oscar at the Oscars this year, but I do think that Austin Butler has a good chance as well. But if Austin Butler doesn't win the Best Actor Oscar for Elvis at the Oscars this year, I think that's absolutely fine as well. Because Austin Butler is young. He's still got a lot of years ahead of him. And he seems like a great actor from what I've seen of him in Elvis. And he also had that small role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And he was really fun in that when he faced off against Brad Pitt towards the end. That was really funny to see, and I think he played it really well. Acting opposite Brad Pitt. So I think Austin Butler's got a lot of years ahead of him. So if he doesn't win the Best Actor Oscar at the Oscars this year, that's absolutely fine. Even so, I love him in Elvis. I think that's absolutely fine because he's still got so many years ahead of him. So for that reason, even so I adore, and I mean I adore, and I've said before, but I'm going to say again, I adore Austin Butler in Elvis. I think that Brendan Fraser is going to be more deserving of an Oscar, and I'd be so much happy if he wins, because Brendan Fraser is somebody I never thought would win an Oscar, and it sounds like he's the front runner right now, and I really want him to win for The Whale. Even so I haven't seen the film yet, I just really want him to win, because that would be great, and I love Brendan Fraser ever since I saw him in The Mummy. I haven't really seen him in anything else, to be honest, when I can think off the top of my head. I know he was in George of the Jungle, but I have got no memories of watching that film. And so, yeah, I'd just love it if Brendan Fraser won, because wouldn't that just be awesome? It'd be great. But I'd also be very happy if Austin Butler won as well. And I think him getting the win here is an indication that he's in the running to get potentially win a Best Actor Oscar at the Oscars this year as well. Best Actress in a Drama went to Cate Blanchett for Tar. Now, also nominated here was Olivia Colman for Empire of Light. I viewed Empire of Light a couple of days ago on this channel. Wasn't a big fan of it, I must say. But she was good in it. Olivia Colman was good in it. Not a best performance, but, you know, she was good in it. I don't think she's going to get nominated for an Oscar. I'd be surprised if she did. I think there's other women this year, other actresses who are more deserving. Viola Davis was nominated for The Woman King. She's probably a dark horse for the Oscars. I could see her potentially winning the Best Actress Oscar. Maybe. I mean, I think it's unlikely, but it's kind of like Colin Farrell in the Best Actor category. I can see both of them definitely being nominated, Viola Davis and Colin Farrell being nominated, and I can potentially see them winning. It's very unlikely, but never say never. Ana de Armas also nominated for Blonde, no surprise there, apparently she's very good in it, and Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans. Haven't seen The Fabelmans, but apparently she's very good in it as well. It's Michelle Williams, so there's no surprise there. And I haven't seen Cate Blanchett in Tar. I haven't seen her in Tar, and I hear she is brilliant. Pardon me there. I hear she's brilliant in it, and Cate Blanchett is an amazing actress. She's already won 2 Oscars, so I wouldn't be surprised if she wins the Oscar for Best Actress this year. Although I do think that Ana de Armas could also win the Best Actor Oscar, or Best Actress Oscar, should I say, and Viola Davis could also win the Best Actress Oscar. But I think it's most likely going to be Cate Blanchett. But you never know. You never know. Anyway, let's see what also was nominated here. Best Picture Drama. Nominated was Avatar: The Way of Water. So it got 2 nominations. That's great. I'm really happy that Avatar: The Way of Water got some nominations, because I've heard some people absolutely hate. Some critics who I admire to pieces absolutely hated Avatar: The Way of Water, and I loved it. And so James Cameron got nominated for Best Director for it. I got nominated for Best Picture. I'm really happy, even if it was the Golden Globes. I'm just happy that it got some nominations and some love, because I loved that film. I didn't love it the first time I saw it because I had a bad experience in the cinema because someone's on their phone right in front of me, so it brought me out my experience of that movie. But the second time I came out of that film and went, that was fucking brilliant. And I'm really happy that it got nominated, at least. Even though it didn't win, I'm just really happy it got nominated. And if it gets nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, I'm gonna be over the moon. Because I love that film. I don't care what anyone says. I thought it was great. Top Gun Maverick also got nominated. I wouldn't have nominated it. I mean, I'm talking about this as if it's the Oscars, actually, aren't I? I just realised that. I'm going through all these nominations as if it's the Oscar nominations. But in reality, they're not the Oscar nominations. They're the Golden Globe nominations. And so I understand why these films are nominated, actually. I understand why Top Gun Maverick is nominated. It's a crowd-pleasing film. I didn't love it, though. I wouldn't have nominated myself. I can't see it being nominated for Oscar for Best Picture, but you never know. Tar also got nominated as well, which was great because I've heard some great things about Tar, and so I'm really excited to see it. The more great things I hear about, the more it gets nominated, the more I can't wait to see it. Hopefully I will one day. Elvis also got nominated, but again it was only the Golden Globe nomination, so there's no surprise there. Although, you know, the reason I'm saying that, and then that's coming from someone who loves Elvis, is my favourite film last year. The reason I'm saying that is because I know a lot of people don't. And so I'm happy he got nominated here. I don't know if he'll be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. If he wins Best Picture at the Oscars, I'm going to throw a parade, because I don't think that's ever going to happen. I'd be even more surprised if he gets nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. But you never know, weirder things have happened. Now, one film which isn't in the list here, and I'll talk about the winner of the Best Picture Golden Globe in a sec, but one film that wasn't nominated in the Best Picture Drama Golden Globes was The Batman. Now, I think The Batman is going to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. I might be wrong, and, you know, I'm completely fine with that, but the reason I think it's going to get a Best Picture nomination is because I think they want to make the Oscars popular again. And I think nominating a comic book film will bring in a bigger audience. And I think it's going to be The Batman. I don't think Black Panther Wakanda Forever is going to get nominated, because even though I think that film is okay, I don't think it's Oscar level, and I think The Batman is a better film. And so I do think that The Batman is going to get nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. I don't think it's going to win, but I think it's going to get nominated so that the Academy can bring a bigger audience in with the Oscars. Because, there's this whole thing recently in the past couple of years that the Oscars are becoming less popular. And I think if they nominate The Batman at least, it'll become more popular. But the winner for the Best Picture drama at the Golden Globes was The Fabelmans, was Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans. No surprise there. I think this film is going to win Best Picture at the Oscars. I think Spielberg's going to get his Best Directing Oscar. I think John Williams could win Best Score. I mean, it'd be fine if he didn't. He's won loads of scores in the past, but he won loads of Oscars in the past. He's won like 5 Oscars, I think, maybe 4 Oscars, somewhere around that. But I think this film is going to win the big ones at the Oscars this year. Even so I haven't seen The Fabelmans, it sounds like it's going to win all the Oscars. All the big Oscars anyway. It sounds like can't even speak again. It sounds like it's going to win Best Picture and Best Director. And I'm very excited about that because the film sounds great and I'm really looking forward to it. And the fact that it won Best Picture Drama at the Golden Globes just gets me more excited about seeing it. It sounds like it's going to be Spielberg's next big win. And it sounds like it's going to be his final time. I mean, I might be wrong. Maybe he makes his next movie, he gets nominated again. But I do think this will be the final time he gets nominated for Best Director and wins, and gets nominated for Best Picture and wins for his film as well. But that's just the way I see it. And that's pretty much it, according to this article from Vanity Fair. That's pretty much it for the Golden Globe nominations and wins. And I think that the films which are nominated the most, blimey, it's really coming down the weather out there, by the way. It's really raining and it's really windy, but still, I think that the films that are nominated the most are an indication of what is going to be nominated the most at the Oscars this year. I think The Fabelmans going to get loads of nominations, like I already said. So is Tar, so is The Banshees of Inisherin. I think those 3 films are the big front runners. I do think The Batman's going to get nominated for quite a bit, because I think they're going to try and make it popular, so they're going to nominate The Batman. I might be wrong. But I think that's what's going to happen. Everything Everywhere All at Once, I would love to see to get some nominations. Even so I didn't love that movie, to be honest, I need to see it again. I still haven't seen it for the second time, so maybe I'll enjoy it a lot more the second time. But I do think that film is also going to get a lot of nominations, and I'm happy about that because it's a very unique film and it's very different, and I do think it was a very ambitious film, and I liked how ambitious it was. Also, I can see Elvis getting quite a few nominations, particularly for art design and cinematography, and I'm very happy about that. Performances, like I said before, I think Brendan Fraser is going to get it for The Whale at the Oscars, but I do think that Austin Butler has a good chance. Same with Colin Farrell. I've already spoken about this already, I don't need to really go over this again, but I think that the big ones to look out for this Oscar season, are The Banshees of Inisherin, The Fabelmans, and Tar. I think some dark horses are films like Women Talking. I've heard some really good things about that. The Woman King, that's what it's called actually. Babylon, perhaps, you never know. It's a film about Hollywood, and Hollywood loves films about Hollywood. Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery, you never know. The Menu, again, you never know. Triangle of Sadness, you never know. I've heard some really good things about that. And also, is there any others here? She Said as well is one to potentially look out for the Oscars. And I think a very dark horse at the Oscars, although one film I'd love to see get nominated and even win, is Avatar: The Way of Water. I don't think it will, but I'd love it to be nominated and I'd love it to win as well. But anyway, guys, I talked for way too long here. I was planning this podcast to only be half an hour long, but it's turned out to be almost 50 minutes long. My voice is going a bit. I don't know how much this podcast has made sense. I really don't, because I'm not feeling particularly well today, and I'm also not doing great myself, just personally right now. But hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on the Golden Globes, even if it was a bit all incoherent, all over the place and messy and a bit of a mishmash. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on the Golden Globes this year and my thoughts on how it's paving the way for the Oscars and what I think is going to get nominated. And hopefully you enjoyed this podcast overall. And if you did, please feel free to like and subscribe down below wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do like, subscribe, and look forward to many more, both film and TVs and podcasts coming very soon on the YouTube channel. I look forward to many more podcasts coming very soon if you're listening on Spotify. I just realised I said like, subscribe twice at the end here. Yep, my brain's all over the place. Anyway, guys, yes, thank you, and I suppose this is it. So I'll see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.